Hey guys, it's Drac, and this is a package I just got in from Modman. He is a Florida Nerfer who is quickly trying to rival Nerfomania for best homemade Nerf maker in the world, and he's doing a really good job. The sheer craftsmanship that have gone into these triple crossbow internal sets, and the fact that they're all functionally and cosmetically identical is just insane. It's a real testament to his skill, and he's only going up from here. So thank you so much for sending these over. I can't wait to get one installed. So this video is about these custom homemade internals that he whipped up for me, and it'll be about turning one of my stock crossbows into something pretty special, because I've decided to finally make a crossbow that I don't really intend to paint. Crossbows are usually an excellent venue for me, or a vessel, so to speak, to do some just crazy awesome or very clean paint jobs. And this time I think that I just want to take the really cool, sleek look that the crossbow has to start with, so I'm going to grab one of my mint ones, break it down, install these internals, and show you what that looks like. So this segment just shows more or less how the crossbow internals are going to fit in, and the minor shell modifications that'll need to be made to accommodate them. So this is a very thick piece of polycarbonate which is going to go in here and be attached to this with liquid epoxy to reinforce the shell. Now, I did brass back when I did my Lilith, and that was probably overkill. It'll never ever break, but it was a ton of work. This seems much quicker, much cleaner, and it matches the rest of the parts, which I like a lot. Up here you can see that this post is going to have to come out entirely so that the barreling material itself will have a place to slide into this coupler. And then up here it looks like cuts are going to have to be made to accommodate that, and I think I'm going to make a cut here and then possibly up here. I'd love to keep this screw port, but I don't think that it's going to be possible, nor do I think it would look entirely clean if I attempted to do so. So I'm going to probably carve here, here, and here, and just follow the shell's ergonomics, because I think that that'll wind up looking the nicest. So I'm going to do all of that and show you kind of what it looks like with the internals complete. It's really important to have just a good pair of vice clamps. I use these quick grip ones from Home Depot for all sorts of Nerf projects, particularly integrations and attachments like this, because the difference in applying constant pressure for the entirety of the cure time in a way that you couldn't do with like your hands makes a pretty big difference in the terms of the adhesive force. So this just shows kind of how I have this curing in a clamp while I wait and tweak all of this stuff. And then once this is fully set, I'm going to give it a full day. I'll come in and make these adjustments, and then I'll show you the internals. So this is what the crossbow looks like with the internals dragged and dropped inside, and I think this is going to be really sweet because of how everything is clear frosted acrylic. I think that that's super duper cool. So the catch has been installed with a doubled up catch spring, and the trigger has been installed using the crossbow's original trigger spring, which is operating very smoothly. This piece has been epoxied into place, and that's very sturdy. I had to sand down the rails on these to make sure that everything would fit completely flush, and then I came in and drilled a 1/8 inch hole here so that I can bolt the blaster to the plunger tube in its non-functional area, so it's not impacting the travel here of the plunger at all, but it is going to add the benefit of distributing the force not only here but also here and here, which means that the action for the crossbow should be very, very smooth. I'm excited to put this one back together and see how it performs. It has, all of the necessary working parts at this point, so it should be as easy as closing it up. Alright, so this is the finished Nerf crossbow. It is a 95 Kenner crossbow by Nerf with all of Modman's internals. I did all of the tweaking in the installation, but it's very, very clean. One of the advantages to using weaker internals than my Lilith is that you can actually get a complete seal on the shell everywhere. So the blaster is stock, kind of, in a way, in that it looks stock from the outside, which is further augmented by the lack of a paint job. And I don't mind the lack of a paint job. I think that the original crossbow colors are very cool, very sleek, and the fact that these stickers are still on here in excellent condition is just too cool. So the blaster has 2 bolts up here which reinforce it and act as a dart stop. They just prevent and kind of distribute some of the force from the plunger head into the shell as opposed to just on the front end of the bushing itself. And in addition to that, they prevent rotation and make chambering of barrels much simpler. There are also some stops here, and then the reinforcement parts that we've already talked about and looked at. This handle is very comfortable. It makes priming the blaster very smooth, and the way that this has been done with two handles allows you to take advantage of the full space and get the maximum amount of draw. You can see that the spring is withdrawn and is caught over here. I whipped up a quick barrel for the purpose of this video. This is 9 inches, or I believe this is a foot actually, of CPVC just hammered into a 1/2 inch coupler. You can see I haven't even reamed this out, and I went ahead and shoved an old school streamline in here. So this is by no means the kind of barrel I would use for competition, but I wanted to get the video out very quickly. So with the barrel, the blaster becomes much longer, and it's firing laser beams, obviously, because it's a crossbow with homemade internals. I'm not entirely sure if the barrel fit is exactly what I need to be ideal, but all in all, I am super duper pleased with these internals. It was very kind of Modman to make them for me, and they're just so clean. It's hard to say much more about that. The trigger is very smooth. It's more comfortable than a stock trigger, which would come only to about here and require full compression. I get about to here, and I'm depressing this catch, which is nice. The new plunger rod is very comfortable to use, and the internals do the job, which is really what a crossbow should do. It should fire lasers downrange to defeat your enemies. So this will be a great loner blaster for NIC wars. If you come down to a Southeast NIC war, you should expect me to have this and then maybe a couple like it in my trunk that you could borrow, and that would be a ton of fun. We have a lot of fun in the NIC down here, and we all have pretty sweet builds and plenty to share. So that is the 1995 Kenner crossbow overhaul with custom internals that don't involve modifying the shell. If you liked this mod and would be interested in a more powerful crossbow, possibly the most powerful crossbow in the NIC, you should definitely check out my custom build of the Lilith. I'll put a link to that in an annotation there. It just hit about 1 million views, which is crazy, and it shoots much harder than any other homemade outside of the ones that are built entirely of PVC, which is super duper cool. So I'm going to cut this video because I feel like I'm rambling, but thanks for your loyal viewership. I hope you liked this blaster.